Hi, welcome to the Shepherd's Rest Doc Talk. This is episode 84A.
I'm Cam and this is Julie. This week's Torah portion is found in Exodus 21 to the end of 24, and it is called Mishpatim. There are a ton of mitzvot, which are commands and judgments, and oh my gosh, you want to talk about a jam-packed Torah portion, that's this one. I know that. Yeah, last year we talked about, we pulled on some really good highlights, and we touched on a lot of them, actually. It is posted. If you'd like to go back and see it, it is episode 31A, and then 31B would be the Brit Hadashah portion. Really good stuff. We won't be covering those things this year, so feel free to go back and watch them or share them with friends, and this week's also. So let's get into this. One thing I want to start with is the understanding that Israel never had a prison system.
Yes.
All right. So these are given.
How things would be different.
Oh, yes. How they would.
Prison system.
And here's the thing. It gives what needs to be done so that there doesn't have to be a prison system.
Right.
They're not putting them aside, which is, there's a lot of negative things about the prison system. Here's one. It puts them aside, and it doesn't compensate the family who lost or was victimized or whatever happened to that person.
Right.
There's no compensation. Well, measure for measure, we know, requires a compensation. The Lord wants to take care of his people. And that
usually requires you to do something,
yes,
not just knowing in your head that they're being punished.
Right. We see the Lord taking care of us. Well, He expects us to do what He did, just like the Son did what the Father did.
Take care of each other.
Right. The other negative thing is that it puts a burden on society as a whole, or on that community, because now they're having to use their workforce, their income to support these people who are not usually even interested in upholding a solid community.
Okay. There's not a lot of measure for measure, like you said, because they're all just put in the same place, usually with the same.
Right, and that's the third negative is their social life doesn't allow them to really come to repentance or to be a benefit to anyone besides themselves, because they're around like-minded that is corrupt.
Right.
For the most part.
They're there for a reason.
And here in the Torah portion this week, we see where the Lord, He has it set up. Look, if you steal, okay, let's look at that from chapter 22. When you steal, if it says a sheep or an ox, right, 5 times more for the ox if it's been killed, and 4 times more for the sheep if it's been killed. But if they're found alive, you give them what you stole, plus you pay back the double.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
Now, let's say I stole a sheep or an ox. And I don't have it. Obviously, I'm stealing. I don't have another one, right?
Yeah.
And you catch me. I give it back to you. Now I owe you the worth of that again. I don't have it. So I would come and work for you.
Right.
You see, now that family's being compensated because I'm working for them. I'm not in some jailhouse rotting and not learning anything. I'm with this family who is hopefully a godly family, and I'm learning from them. Even though we're all in the same community, who knows, whatever reason I didn't learn it or chose not to, I get a choice. I'm going to get almost a second chance. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to get a second chance. We see another second chance in this week when we look at 21, 30, and 31, where we see here it's the person who owns the ox. The ox has killed someone, and they're going to take the ox. The ox has to die. And then the individual who owned the ox, who willingly allowed that ox to roam, knowing that he had already killed before. Okay, so this isn't the first time. This is the second time.
Right.
So now a life is required. Mm-hmm. So the owner of the ox, let's say I own the ox, my life would be required. But here's that second chance. The Lord is going to allow someone, hopefully from my family, to ransom me.
Okay.
So they're able to give a sin covering. I can't do it. I can't pull it out of my pocket and pay it. But someone can do a ransoming to pay that I might live.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
See Messiah written all over this.
Exactly. And so we have Messiah who paid it so we might live, right? And think about this. We really were running amok, letting our flesh run and hurt other people.
It makes me think of the millennium. With the millennium, I've been thinking a lot about that this morning, about what exactly is the millennium for?
Yeah.
And think about that.
Boot camp.
We've been running amok. Even though we are his children, we haven't had an authority over us that is causing us to walk in his ways.
Right.
So we will be doing that in the millennium and learning.
Yeah.
Kind of like working for Messiah. It's like, I'm ransoming you. Now you come work for me because we can't pay the debt. And that's when we're going to learn it to go into eternity.
And we actually have that in 24 this week.
Okay.
So we have Moses who has gone up, right? He already wrote the Torah out. That was from the 10 words to the more fleshed out part that, because 21, 22, and 23 is basically fleshing out how to love your neighbor and how to love the Lord.
Right.
So he's got that written.
Okay.
I digress quickly. If you remember in chapter 18 where we talked about Moses, standing and giving the right rulings all day long.
Right.
Some say it was out of order, that didn't happen. However, here is something that kind of leans towards it was in order, because now that he's written them out, he's given them, and he's telling Aaron and the people who go up with him to please use this book.
Right.
And let them come up to you. And there's 70 elders. So now you know that
now you have the system.
Yes, and you're allowing the system to work, and they all have the written copy because Moses isn't going to be there for them to go to. Because usually as it moves up the ladder, there was someone that could go to Moses just to make sure it was right.
Right.
So they have this book right now. They have it written out. So we have the same people who were involved before in chapter 17 with the battle. We have Joshua, we have Moses, we have however you say it, and then we have Aaron. These are the same people that work together there are working together right here.
Oh.
So we have Moses and Joshua that go up. I'm not sure what happens to Joshua. I guess he kind of sits back a little bit, but he goes higher than the others. And Moses goes up, and he is there, doing his thing on a mountain, getting ready to come back and teach everybody. And it's the fire. I mean, I'm like, oh my gosh, it is the millennium. It's exactly what's going to be happening on the millennium.
And I'm thinking, because it's Moses and Joshua, you have to have both represented.
Right.
The servant Messiah and the kingly Messiah.
Right.
Yeah.
And they have the book to go by. Because why? Because they're learning how to really walk by it. Just like Julie said. And we call it laughingly the boot camp. It's boot camp for eternity. This right now is boot camp for millennium.
Right.
And the millennium is boot camp for eternity.
Well, this is sign up for, this is the sign up for the boot camp, I guess. I used to think, this is boot camp, which in a way, it depends. Are you going to New Jersey? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
In the way I think it is, if you're willing to say, I'll do early training, then you immediately shoot up a little bit more in the class or whatever. You have more knowledge. So
everyone has the
So maybe you're going to be a
ability.
Platoon leader instead of a private. That's all I'm saying,
Yeah.
Or a teacher's aide instead of, a student. I don't know, but
Right.
we know for sure that right now we're going through something that's preparing us
For the millennium.
right.
Whether it's for here or
for New Jerusalem or however. Yeah, something's happening.
Right. Yes. So that really makes me think, we really can't hold to the mindset that we're just going to be whisked away and then that's it. And everybody's equal and everyone will be the same.
And we know that's not true because Matthew 5 says the least, and the greatest in the kingdom.
Right.
That right there shows there's at least two groups. And if you look at all the patterns.
It just doesn't fit. I was going to say,
if you look at all the patterns, even the pattern in 24, we have the people who stay down at the bottom. We have those who go slightly up. We have those that go higher. And then we have Moses, the direct connection. Yeah. So you still have that breakdown, but understanding that it's already set up with these groups, that's not a new concept for Israel. That's a new concept for us because we have just had this thing about, we're all one, we're all the same. We're not. It even talks about how in 23, if they are worshiping another god from, like whenever they go into Canaan, if they're worshiping the gods of Canaan, don't even let them into the land. They have to leave.
Right.
Because it's going to corrupt.
Yeah.
Well, we are right there in America is right there now. We started as a godly nation. When you read through these, rulings like basically you put a fence around your pool. Idea comes from this. The kidnapping. It's not acceptable. There's so many things in here that come straight out of the word into our court system.
Right.
And if you go back to George Washington's time when we were set up as a nation, those were the rules.
Yeah.
They went by the word of God.
Mm-hmm.
But as time's gone by and they're not being forced to live by this, and we're bringing in everybody who says, I don't want to do that. Actually, we seem to be, you don't want to? Come on. You want to? Back off. We're not sure.
Yeah.
That we see what happens when you do not go by this, when you mix it. That's the worst thing. Mm-hmm. We're literally in the spewing out of the mouth situation in America.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying just America, all over the world, okay? It's the whole world that's doing it. This is set up for God's people, and we are coming out of the whole world, okay?
Right.
So all the nations. So we're all accountable for it.
I mean, and they all have to be that way if we're going to come out of them.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
So like we said earlier regarding the mitzvot, you know, these mitzvot are given, and it's kind of like, well, here's when you sin what you do, basically. Well, as godly people, we're not supposed to even be in this position. Right. But again, as a nation, they have to have a set of rules because you're going to have the strangers among them. You're going to have the people who are untaught.
Right.
And this is a way in which you're going to teach them. So this is really a teaching tool for the godly and the righteous. Mm-hmm. But those who choose to not be, this is a punishment. This is basically, this week's Torah portion is mostly for the ungodly.
Oh, okay.
But it's preparing a way for them to come in to be righteous, to be godly. Correct.
Right. Okay.
So when we see in so Romans and talks about the wages of sin is death, right? Mm-hmm. Well, absolutely. We see where death is the wages of several of these things.
Right.
Not just eternal death, but even physical death.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Then we also know in 1 Timothy 1, I think it's 7 through 10, and it talks about how the Torah is for the godless. That doesn't mean that he was not saying only ungodly people like the Torah or listen to the Torah. He's saying that, just like Paul talks about in 7 through 10, look, I would not know that I sinned unless the Torah told me.
Right.
And then I wouldn't even know how to correct it unless the Torah told me.
So really it's for all of us.
It is for all of us because we all sin.
We all sin, yeah.
Exactly. Then when we read in Galatians, what talks to in 3, where it talks about, the Torah is a teacher, but then once Messiah comes, it no longer teaches us. Because here's why. The Torah is showing us how we should walk, and it's showing us these parts with the consequences of sin and what to do to rectify that. When Messiah came, he gave us the ability now to walk in it. We've talked about this before.
Right.
To walk in it rightly. So then when it talks about, but these are the fruits of the Spirit, and for these there is no law against, right? Mm-hmm. Because see, the idea is once we have the Holy Spirit in us, once we're walking in him, stealing, all these are not even going to be in our repertoire of our daily life.
Right.
It doesn't mean that it's no longer for us because it still shows us as a nation how to respond to those who do.
It reminds me of my kids. Okay. Most of my kids are grown now. Uh-huh. 2 out of 3. And they're adults. One of them is still at home because she's going to school. Mm-hmm. And the other one is away at school. But anyway, so we had all these rules that we went over all the time,
right,
growing up when they were little, mm-hmm. right? Well, now they're older. I don't ever talk about those rules anymore. They've matured to the point where they don't have to be taught constantly the rules. They now live by those rules.
Right.
But it doesn't mean the rules changed in my house.
Right, yeah.
My household still has the same rules.
That's a great example. One last note I want to look at this week, and that is in Exodus 22:28. It has this, it says, do not revile against an Elohim. Some says judges, some books say gods, but it says an Elohim, little e, nor curse a ruler of the people. All right. Mm-hmm. So basically what he's saying is don't come against a judge and don't curse a ruler. Okay, because remember, this is how to judge, how to respond to people who are breaking the commands,
right?
The Torah, how to walk it. Okay. I bring this up because there are verses that people don't understand because they don't know Torah. And we even know in 1 Timothy 1, that was talking about 7 to 10, he talks about they're twisting the Torah. They don't even understand it. They want to be teachers of it, of the word, and they don't even understand it, so they're just twisting it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And Paul talks about Peter talks about people taking Paul's words and twisting it. But anyhow, here's a place that I find is often twisted. So we see in John 10:32-38 where Messiah is talking to the Pharisees who are coming up against him and judging and saying he's blaspheming. Right, and they're judging him, okay? Mm-hmm. And he says, well, didn't the word say, didn't your word, you're over there quoting Torah, didn't your word say that we were judges? And Psalms also says it. It's in Psalms 82:6, actually, 82, all of it is talking about how we're to be judges. And then at the end, it's like, well, you know what? The Lord's the head judge. He's going to take care of it all. Right. All right, so we have Messiah dealing with this as judges. We have Psalms dealing with this. And we have right here being told, do not revile a judge. Do not revile an Elohim. That doesn't mean we're all little gods. The Holy Spirit's in me, so I'm now a God. That is not what this is saying. This is speaking of, because we have this word, we have the Torah. If it's inside, we are able to judge. I mean, aren't we even told judges fruit? Mm-hmm. Well, we judge a fruit according to the word. Right. So we are judges.
You got to know the word.
And so what Messiah was doing was he was kind of playing with their words. See, they're blaming him of saying he was an Elohim, a son of Elohim. Uh-huh. And he's throwing back, well, doesn't the word say that we're all Elohims? Yeah. We're all judges? Because Messiah is going to be our final judge.
Yes. Yes.
So he's doing this little play on words that's supposed to make them think and draw them back to the word to go back to see what it really says.
Because the whole book teaches on him. So if they would go back to the word, they would see, oh, this really is Messiah.
Absolutely. Anyway, I just want to throw that out there because, again, that's something that's often twisted. And you will hear people and using these scriptures to say, see, we're all little gods. Yet Elohim, little, can also mean judge. Right. So, all right. That pretty much ends this week. Yeah. I mean, seriously, you can comb through it and find so many nuggets. I suggest you do so. And even think about our law in the United States. Because we were founded on the Bible as a godly nation. Yes, we are going to reap the not so good benefits of not behaving like one.
That's right.
Yeah. So, yeah. We thank you so much for joining us this week. We hope that you have a marvelous day and week, and we'll see you on the flip side with Julie and the prophets. Shalom.